It's Wednesday, February 3. This is the news on PBCJ. I'm Carol Francis. Jamaica is slated to receive the first tranche of COVID-19 vaccines in 2 weeks. Minister of Health and Wellness, Dr. Christopher Tufton, says preparations to begin vaccinating Jamaicans is in high gear. He gave an update in Parliament on Tuesday. We get more from Simone Absalom Gale.
Health Minister Dr. Christopher Tufton says Jamaica is set to receive its first doses of the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine through the World Health Organization's COVID-19 Vaccine Global Access Facility, known as the COVAX facility.
The country is set to receive between 146,400 and possibly up to 249,600 doses of the AstraZeneca vaccine by the middle of February 2021. That's this month. This means that some 125,000 Jamaicans, or up to 125,000 Jamaicans, could receive vaccines during the months or the latter part of February into March.
Dr. Tufton says Jamaica could receive an additional 250,000 doses under another facility.
If additional supplies under the COVAX arrangements are received, and you will recall that I did update the Honourable House as to the commitment for 16% during the course of 2021, approximately 450,000 Jamaicans by the end of the year under this arrangement would receive vaccination. I must hasten, however, to caution that it is likely that the allocation could be adjusted. It could be adjusted upwards or downwards, depending on the present global circumstances and any anticipated challenges that this facility may encounter, which most likely would be issues around manufacturing.
Plans are also in place to procure vaccines from India.
The Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade has initiated dialogue with the UK government. I also met with the High Commissioner to Jamaica. Even as we talk with Mexico under our bilateral arrangements, with an option to approaching our negotiation through the intergovernmental machinery, the community of Latin American and Caribbean states. Madam Speaker, our objective in doing all of this, whether COVAX or the additional possibilities, is to explore all the options, to expand the pool of vaccines being made available to Jamaica so that as many Jamaicans as possible can be vaccinated. And this will help to slow the spread of the disease, of course, and reduce the severity of illness for our vulnerable population and the population at large.
The aim is to vaccinate at least 16% of the population, with a focus on frontline workers and vulnerable groups. However, in addition to an effective distribution plan, Dr. Tufton explains that public education is also key.
We will also intensify our health promotion and communication machinery, beginning with a town hall meeting on Thursday, February 4th. This is this Thursday, to further foster trust of the vaccine, dispel myths and misinformation, provide factual and accurate information about vaccination, and hopefully through this process, gain public input in the vaccination strategies to be deployed.
On the matter of distribution, Dr. Tufton says he'll be meeting with private practitioners from across the island to discuss their role in the distribution of the vaccines. The Health Minister will also be speaking with the National Vaccine Commission to finalize plans to introduce the first set of the COVID-19 vaccines.
We will also intensify our health promotion and communication machinery, beginning with a town hall meeting on Thursday, February 4th. This is this Thursday, to further foster trust of the vaccine, dispel myths and misinformation, provide factual and accurate information about vaccination, and hopefully through this process, gain public input in the vaccination strategies to be deployed.
For the news on PBCJ, I'm Simone Absalom Gale.
Belair High School in Mandeville, Manchester is closed for deep cleaning. This after a student exhibited symptoms of COVID-19. Students preparing for exams will have their classes online. The school is to resume face-to-face teaching on February 18. This is the second school to close since February 1 due to COVID-19. Yalas High in St. Thomas closed its gates on Monday after a student tested positive for COVID-19. National Security Minister Dr. Horace Chang says he will be working with the Justice Ministry to introduce key legislation reforms to fight crime. He says the ministry is looking at drafting a new Firearms Act, amending the anti-gang legislation and regulations for the major organized crime and anti-corruption agency. He spoke of these and other related matters in his address to the lower house on Tuesday. Marlon Samuels reports.
Dr. Chang says the National Security Ministry will continue to invest in improving the police force
and giving them the tools and resources to effectively and sustainably break the back of crime and violence in our society. But we'll also continue to pursue strategic social investments within the inner city and vulnerable communities in order to provide hope to these residents and to our young men in particular.
The minister says the rollout of the Jamaica Eye infrastructure across the island plays a key role in nabbing criminals.
It's in Kingston, Corporate Area, Spanish Town, Maypen, Mandeville, Montego Bay, Negril, Ocho Rios, all our major centers, urban centers, and is being expanded to smaller centers. We'll be a bit slower this year in this number of small townships in central Jamaica in particular, but we'll be in St. Elizabeth before half-year out. Gale, Spalding, Christiana come on next feature, right? There was a shooting on Bottom Road in Montego Bay. In 7 minutes, we had the criminals in Norwood, arrested, charged, identified and charged. Jamaica Eye played a role. Murder committed in Frankfield by men from Kingston, they're apprehended on the way back at the toll booth. Same day, within hours. Jamaica Eye contributed to that. We had criminals in St. Elizabeth. They're shooting someone, they're apprehended at Gutters on the way back into Kingston. Phoenix Avenue in Kingston, within minutes, demonstrating the ability and commitment of a police force, but certainly given the tools, they will effect the job.
The issue of criminal gang activity was also addressed.
Much work has been done. It's not something announced, not a rebuilding of anything. Much work has been done to control that, and much crime has been stopped because of the intervention. But there's more work to be done. We, in fact, will have to identify and build, in addition to doing within the existing station, we'll have to establish a high-security prison. It's just a simple fact of life where we can be even more rigid in controlling the activities and preventing the kind of movement out of these communities.
Minister Chang says work will continue towards the success of social intervention activities as part of the strategy to prevent criminal activities at the community level. For the news on PBCJ, I am Marlon Samuels.
Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Labour and Social Security, Colette Roberts-Risden, was grilled by members of the Public Accounts Committee, PAC, on Tuesday. At the heart of the questioning was the ministry's purported non-response to numerous internal audits done over several years.
Has anyone been held accountable for not responding to the audits points?
Persons have been spoken to and written to about it.
And those would form part of their file that would go to HR, etc.?
It would have.
Okay. The
Not
challenge.
necessarily part of that.
The challenge, PS. Hold on a second, member please. PS. The challenge, PS, is that having received these documents, you must understand that the litany of outstanding responses to the internal audit, 16 one case, 19 another case, your own internal auditor saying, well, not saying, my words would be, there seems to be a culture of non-responsiveness on critical issues. You must understand why members are deeply concerned about what seems to have been taking place at the ministry over an extended period of time. In her defense, the PS Roberts-Risden cited the lack of resources as an obstacle to the proper execution of her function. There are 50 public beaches in Jamaica.
The others are privately owned by resorts or other residential interests. Access to beaches was the subject of a virtual town hall meeting on Tuesday. The meeting examined a proposed Parliament Green Paper on the management of our beaches.
Members of the public are being invited to make comments and provide recommendations on the beach access management policy for Jamaica, which is now at the draft stage of development. This is being spearheaded by Minister of Housing, Urban Renewal, Environment and Climate Change, Pernell Charles Jr.
The issue relating to our beaches is a sensitive one. It can be a vexing issue, and it is an issue which we intend to tackle with a view to achieving solutions that will lead to our outcome. And the beach access and management draft policy focuses on us improving access rights to the beaches, as well as improving, very importantly, the quality of our beaches and the maintenance of our beaches. And we do so by putting forward a number of proposals that acknowledge the very important cultural and heritage identity that beaches have to us as Jamaicans, the importance of our beaches as just a part of what we're defined as a nation.
Chief Technical Director in the Ministry's portfolio, Gillian Guthrie, addressed the challenges to managing the island's beaches.
Some of these main issues are the unavailability of access point to beaches, the lack of beaches of a good standard for the public, meaning beaches with amenities so that you can recreate comfortably on these beaches, objection of some members of the public to the payment of fees or the level of fees required for accessing these public bathing beaches, the loss of physical and visual access to the coastline due to extensive coastal development, and we call this ribbon development, and the rerouting of major roads in some cases. The divestment of former public beaches to private interests without consultations, and the prohibitive costs of access to beaches that have been divested. Additionally, there are some other issues related to informal settlements on beach lands. There are some beaches across the island that we have this situation existing. The lack of maintenance and amenities at several of the island's public bathing beaches. There are no beaches gazetted under Section 52 of the Beach Control Act, and this is a section of the Act where the Beach Control Authority can have consultations with the owner-operator of beaches and the relevant municipal corporation to fix the fee for access and the poor coastal water quality.
A green paper was tabled in the House of Representatives in October last year by Minister Charles since then, as part of the policy development process. The Ministry's Environment and Risk Management branch has been hosting a series of virtual consultations with a number of stakeholders. This makes the 5th such meeting. Melvin Pennant, PBCJ News.
We go now to the business desk for a quick report from host Gabriel Thompson.
In Tuesday's trading session, the JSE Combined Index advanced by 3,080 points to close at under 400,000 units. Overall market activity resulted from trading in 85 stocks, of which 34 advanced, 41 declined, and 10 traded firm. The Junior Market Index declined by 16 points to close at under 3,000 units. Stocks advanced for Barita Investments Limited, Cargo Handlers Limited, and Caribbean Assurance Brokers Limited. Stocks declined for 138 Student Living Jamaica, 138 Student Living Variable Preference, and Access Financial Services. Trading firm were 1834 Investments Limited, Derrimon Trading Company Limited, and Everything Fresh Limited. Wigton Wind Farm Limited ordinary shares was the volume leader with 11.2 million units, followed by Caribbean Flavors and Fragrances Limited with 7.4 million units, and Derrimon Trading Company Limited with 4.9 million units. Now for the foreign exchange. The US dollar on Tuesday, February 2, ended trading at $149.76. The Canadian dollar sold for an average $117.89. The pound sterling traded for $203.66, and the euro ended trading at $183.51. Oil prices rose 2% on Tuesday, reaching their highest in 12 months after major producers showed they were reining in output roughly in line with commitments. The global and U.S. crude benchmarks rallied as optimism about more U.S. economic stimulus added to bullishness from OPEC production levels, which rose less than expected in January. Brent crude futures gained $1.11 to $57.46 a barrel. West Texas Intermediate crude futures rose $1.21 to $54.76 a barrel. And that does it for the Wednesday edition of the Business Report on PBCJ. I'm Gabrielle Thompson.
Bad breath. It's one of those subjects that's hard to approach or even sometimes admit. It can affect anyone at some point or another and can be caused by a variety of reasons. Today, Dr. Francis Barnett gives us effective ways of treating and getting rid of bad breath.
I love these stone walls. They have so much character, and it's almost as if the stones just have to be placed in such a way that there's space, but they're held tightly together. Dr. Barnett, this thing, tonsil stones, what is it?
Okay. Well, once you have tonsils, you'll get tonsil stones, and it's because of just how the tonsils are and their form. If you look on the picture, you will see these large holes, and these holes extend very deep into the tonsils, and there are many of them, and we call them tonsil crypts. Food material can be deposited in these tonsils, and this food material becomes hard concretions that are bacteria ridden, and so they're extremely foul smelling.
Yes, they give you bad breath.
They give you bad breath, and also they can be a source of infection. Okay. Unfortunately, some people get tonsil stones more than others, and it's difficult to say who will have this problem. And things like gargling and so on doesn't really work. Many times what you see, it's just the tip of the iceberg, and there is a lot more that is deep within the tonsils. And when they get obstructed, these crypts or these pits, can lead to an infection. So something that can be done, just with your regular oral hygiene, is to massage the tonsils and to massage them out. Now, I don't recommend that you use anything other than your finger, because, we don't want you choking on something. And God forbid, this choking can lead to something, swallowing and so on. So it can cause injury, and also clearly because they tend to be infected, it may lead to infection. And so a gentle massage of the tonsil may get them out. But unfortunately, if they're happening too often, then tonsillectomy or removal of the tonsils is beneficial.
Okay, so massage the tonsils. If it keeps occurring, see your physician. You may need a tonsillectomy.
Definitely.
Tip for today.
In regional news, the Guyanese government has made a decision to downgrade the Guyana High Commission in Trinidad and Tobago to a consulate general. More from news source Guyana.
The government of Guyana has made a decision to downgrade the Guyana High Commission in Trinidad and Tobago to a consulate general. The Trinidad and Tobago government has been informed of the decision by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. It is unclear what triggered the move by the government, but the Foreign Affairs official confirmed the change to News Source and explained that the Consulate General will still meet the needs of Guyanese in Trinidad and Tobago, including the provision of representative and other services. Additionally, the new Guyana Consulate General will pursue all bilateral relations on behalf of the Guyana government in Trinidad and Tobago. Guyana established a High Commission in the neighboring Caribbean country under the previous government in February of 2017. At the time, the move was welcomed by the Trinidad and Tobago government, which saw the opening of the High Commission as a way of boosting and strengthening ties, while enabling greater trade and investments between Guyana and Trinidad and Tobago. Before opening the High Commission in Trinidad and Tobago, Guyana was served by an honorary consul general.
In Trinidad and Tobago, National Security Minister Stuart Young says despite a frenzy that there were tens of thousands of stranded nationals abroad, the new online application exemption system only notched up just over 3,000 applications since being launched on January 22. The system has received 3,260 applications as of February 1. Mr. Young now has some questions as to the remaining requests for exemptions prior to the introduction of the online system. Sunil Lala reports.
National Security Minister Stuart Young says before his ministry launched its online exemption system in late January, just over 19,000 applications had been made, 11,000 of which had been granted. That left 8,000 plus outstanding applications to be dealt with. But since the online system went live on January 25th, Minister Young says a total of only 3,260 applications had been made to date. This, he believes, shows that there are not tens of thousands of nationals stuck outside.
We're now down to 3,260 applications, and I just want to talk about some of the cases that we're seeing now so people understand that despite all the hysteria, all the propaganda, we are not really dealing with tens of thousands of Trinidadians stuck outside of Trinidad and Tobago.
Minister Young says a number of people applying for exemptions are not just those who would have been stuck outside when the borders were closed.
There are about 1,500 persons who left before the borders were closed in March. Even in this category, which we're now verifying with immigration, there are persons who are accustomed going out. We've picked up persons who are domiciled in the United States and other areas.
The minister adds that there are also instances where persons have filled out the form for an exemption to enter this country but are still in Trinidad and Tobago.
People who are applying to leave months from today. Persons who are saying, I want to go in May, I want to go in September, I want to go in June of this year, and they have applied. So all of that now filters in to the 3,000 applications because they're saying, I want to leave and I want to come back in. My child got accepted to university. I want to take the whole family up and come back in.
As of February 1st, Minister Young says a total of 12,338 exemptions were granted compared to 11,682 on January 22nd. Sonolala, TTT News.
Over in St. Lucia, inmates at the Belair Correctional Facility took to Facebook Live on Tuesday to vent their frustrations with, among other things, the slow-turning wheels of justice.
We want to see some medical practitioners to issue some hand sanitizer and mask and soap and them kind of things to us. We want to know why the facility reject Dr. King. Why the facility reject Dr. King from bringing hand sanitizers and masks and them kind of things to us.
Mask on, mask off. They didn't care. They just wanted their voices heard. And nobody knows how they got the cell phones, or even mobile data for that matter. But the inmates at the Belair Correctional Facility started a live Facebook feed from an account named BCF Monsters. At about 40 seconds short of an entire hour, the video for them signaled the boiling point. 1 week after 8 individuals, including one guard, tested positive for the coronavirus. The prison officer passed away over the weekend. One inmate rushed to hospital Sunday. Reports reaching Prime Tuesday morning was that the inmate had passed, but Prison Director Hilary Herman indicated that this was not the case. However, the inmates, who have made appeals to the public via a series of videos and voice messages, aired numerous grievances to the near 2,500 people viewing live on Facebook. They maintained that authorities have been less than transparent with information on their test results, but also claimed that they are not being handed any masks or sanitization supplies. Neither are the quarantine and isolation arrangements adequate, they say. As many as 20 in a cell. They continue to fear further risk of exposure to the virus. And their other concerns range from living conditions.
What are we living?
What are we living? Real dog life in prison. Take out from outside. Where's the social distance? 7 man in a cell.
Man on the floor sleeping.
Watch iron. Watch iron. Watch iron. That is what it like. That is what the corona like. Watch iron. How much iron everywhere? We're surrounded by iron. You understand? That man on the floor.
To an inordinate time on remand.
Use no officer, nothing. We are showing you how the officers doing it.
The director say we have Zoom visits. We have Zoom visits. Which one of us can get a Zoom visit?
At all, none.
From January last year, 2019 to January this year. I can't see my family.
I don't see my family, at least. I don't even see a judge.
Every one of us.
It have many years, they have inmates that complaining. Many years inmates complaining for help.
I have 4 years. I innocent too.
Yeah, man.
That's why Empire 5 years. Why they want to give us fair trials for us to
yeah, man. Prove ourselves guilty.
Why?
Yeah, man.
Why?
Yeah, man.
They're gonna have a fair trial. How long it taking for a court proceeding to go on? How long it taking? You're doing 5 years. You're doing 5 years in jail. Sometimes only 4 times you go.
And the prison guards did not appear to mind the commotion as the prisoners moved between units, at one point walking through a fenced opening. While some inmates were clad with face masks forged from the same material as the prison jumpers, the majority simply wrapped their faces in clothing, testament to their claim of the unavailability of or unwillingness of prison authorities to provide them with the necessary protective wear and sanitizer. The 1-hour video ended without any intervention from prison authorities, but sparked a wave of public reaction, some in support, some admonition, and some just simply amazed. There were no reports of casualties during Tuesday's protest. Miguel Favre, NBC Prime.
In sports, though it was postponed last year owing to the pandemic, the Tokyo Olympics will go ahead this summer, quote, however the coronavirus evolves, end quote. So says Tokyo 2020 President Yoshiro Mori as he brushed aside doubts about the events. Organizers, Japan's government, and Olympic officials are trying to shore up support for the Games, despite a surge in infections around the world, less than 6 months before the opening ceremony. Doubts about the Games have grown as countries have been forced to re-enter lockdowns. Large parts of Japan are currently under a virus state of emergency, but Mr. Morris sounded a confident note. The comments came hours before Japan's Prime Minister is expected to announce a month-long extension of the state of emergency. The measures will run until March 7 in Tokyo and several other parts of the country. And that's our package. Join us again tomorrow, same time, same place, for more news and sports right here on PBCJ, the People's Station.